With Fantastic Four: The First Steps coming out later this summer, I might as well talk about more Fantastic Four media. I haven't exactly been a fan of Dan Slott's Fantastic Four run. My problem is just how it feels desperate. It wants to have the grandiosity of Hickman's run, but it lacks the substance found in Hickman's run, and it also lacks a lot of the character moments in Hickman's run. The issue I'm talking about today is the War of the Realms tie-in. War of the Realms was a Jason Aaron crossover story where the forces of Malekith the Accursed have taken over the realms and are going to invade Earth because why wouldn't you invade Earth? Because you're a big bad, and you might as well have, a Thor villain do it rather than aliens again. So let's dig into War of the Realms, the Fantastic Four tie-in, which is issue number 10 of the Dan Slott run. The cover is actually a good cover. I like the art direction for the forces of the 9, technically 10 realms, plus the human collaborators, but I am not a fan of the human characters when you see them up close. Valeria, she just looks like she put on too much makeup. I know they're trying to do the looming over effect, but this is not it. Susan is much better. Franklin, ugh. We'll get to him later. So, first page. We open with Valeria building a transmitter to contact the Future Foundation, who are off in the multiverse searching for the Molecule Man. This earns the ire of Moon Girl because Valeria is sucking up all the power on the grid. I assume Valeria is bored and tired because she didn't build her own power source. I'm also sure Ben is thrilled at the idea of getting a massive energy bill at the end of a month for building multiversal transmitters, which I am sure those are not cheap in terms of energy economy. There's also too much light here. I feel like showing rather than telling should be in play because Lunella saying that she's sucking up all the power should be something that is shown, but all this light here, no, it's not doing it. Meanwhile, Johnny Storm here detects the sound of a smoke alarm, something he is very familiar with. And it's coming from Franklin's room. Okay, clearly he must be smoking because he's a teenager. Well, he's not smoking, he's just emo and burning a sketchbook in a trash can. Okay, overdramatic teenager is the only characterization Franklin has in this entire run. The emo teenager train is rolling since Franklin is being punished for actions in prior issues. See, his justification for his prior actions is that he sacrificed his powers and that's all that matters. Dude, you were a dick for the past 2 issues. They're talking about issue 8 where he decides to be emo and sulk and run off because he knows Alicia can't keep up because Aunt Alicia is blind. And then when they actually find trouble, his relatives nearly get killed, and he decides to act emo by dismissively saying it wasn't important enough to use his powers before being coaxed into using them. Just saying, being forced to work at a community center full of rowdy kids isn't exactly making him sympathetic, nor is it an appropriate punishment for this idiot. Then he nearly gets into a brawl with the local kids. I get this is meant to make him look bad, but it feels like the emo bit is done too well. Anyways, there's a block party on Yancey Street, and we get some interaction between Lunella and Valeria. If you think this will lead to a long-term rivalry, think again. They're just going, I'm smarter than Reed, I'm also smarter than Reed. Ugh. Meanwhile, Franklin continues sulking, more dialogue about how he used to be a god. Then we have the attack. While the Fantastic Four are fighting, Lunella and Valeria rush to help, and Lunella thinks Iron will work on all of them. Only they're not all from Svartalfheim. They're from all the realms. No, this isn't how this works. Meanwhile, the neighborhood is actually willing to fight. They do get their butts handed, and obvious Franklin intervention is obvious. You see him rave about how he's a god who makes sacrifices, and just stop already. Eventually, he destroys the transmitter, which is actually what they were after. See, they were jamming communications, and the transmitter, well, kept lines of communication open. The issue ends with the Fantastic Four heading off to fight in the War of the Realms. leaving Franklin, Valeria, Lunella, and Devil Dinosaur to protect Yancey Street. And that was the War of the Realms tie-in. While it is a tie-in comic which works in the greater context of a given event, as a standalone, okay, even as a tie-in, I find this questionable. In theory, I assume Dan Slott had moved the Fantastic Four to 4 Yancey Street, not because of any Four connection, but because he wanted them to interact more with the local people. Because if you're just sequestered to the Baxter Building, you're just kind of sequestered to the Baxter Building. There's not much to it, and it's harder to have characters, especially teenage characters, interact with anyone more than just their relatives. You need to show them interacting with their relatives, with friends, but you kind of have to give them friends first, so this is the whole 4 Yancey Street thing. The problem is that after this issue, the Yancey Street kids don't really appear in any significant capacity ever. I don't think anything actually comes out of Valeria and Moon Girl's interaction over I'm smarter than Reed Richards. Well, I'm smarter than Reed Richards. It just sort of fizzles away after this issue because I guess there was maybe editorial interference, but I'm not sure what the point of their whole interaction was, other than, well, that happened. It's just there. But that was lost potential. Here's no potential, in that he's a constant function. Franklin continues to be uninteresting because every page is practically filled with him whining about his powers fading. Now, you could argue this is repetition for a greater theme. I call that a wad of crap, mainly because you've had more pages from prior issues hammering this point home. By issue 10, it's because the book does not know what to do with him, so they just keep having him repeat the same 4 lines over and over again, expecting different results. Even without his powers, he is somehow solely defined by his powers, by the fact that he's an Omega level whatever, and ultimately, he's just boring. There's nothing much to do with this character other than just talk about his powers. In terms of the action, I am not particularly impressed, especially since this is a tie-in to an event comic. Seriously, this 1/2 page in the War of the Realms comic itself says a lot more about the action than anything else, saying Lao Fei, the king of the Frost Giants, is learning what Galactus learned before him, that New York has all the giants it needs. So, how is the action in the tie-in issue where the Fantastic Four are the actual focus so bad compared to just this one-off scene? I get that one-off scenes are meant to show off, but seriously, this is just kinda pathetic. Anyways, read Ryan North's Fantastic Four run, the one that comes right after this run. It's so much better than this run. Those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.